محاضرات يوسف عبد الله صايغ التنموية. واسمحوا لي أن أنتقل إلى اللغة الإنجليزية لأرحب بضيف المعهد ومحاضر هذه السنة الدكتور روبرت أستاذ الاقتصاد السياسي بكلية لندن للاقتصاد والعلوم السياسية. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all and welcome you at the Palestine Economic Policy Research Institute, MAS, to the 5th annual Yusif A. Sayigh Development Lecture. Delivered this year by our distinguished guest and eminent scholar, Dr. Robert H. Wade, Professor of Political Economy at the London School of Economics. The Yusif Sayigh Development Lecture has become an established annual activity at MAS, a tradition as well as an institution in its own right. This is the 5th lecture in the series since the inaugural lecture in 2009. Yusif Sayigh was the foremost Palestinian development economist of his generation, a scholar and a patriot who served his country well, devoting his remarkable intellect to the cause of his people. I will not go through Professor Sayigh's biography and numerous achievements, but we take pride here at MAS in the fact that it was Professor Sayigh who conceived of the idea of establishing an institute for economic policy research in Palestine. That was in Tunis in 1933. A year later, the institute was established in Jerusalem, and Professor Sayigh accepted to be a member of its board of trustees, but declined to chair it. We commemorate his contribution to Palestinian development studies by organizing this series of lectures to which we each year invite a prominent scholar to lecture on a topic of their own choice. This year we are particularly happy and lucky to have been able to secure the presence of Professor Wade amongst us to lecture on new industrial policy, the entrepreneurial state as a complement to private entrepreneurs. I would like to acknowledge the efforts and the support of the British Council, the Canadian Institute, Medical Holding, and MAS's ardent friend, Roger Khaldi, for making this event possible. Professor Robert Wade is the winner of the 2008 Yusif Prize for Advancing the Frontiers of Economic Thought. His book, Governing the Market, published by Princeton University Press in 1990 and reprinted in 2004, won the American Political Science Association Award for Best Book in Political Economy in 1992. The Financial Times listed Professor Wade in 2008 among the world's 50 most influential economists. Before joining the London School of Economics, Professor Wade worked at the Institute of Development Studies at Sussex University, at Princeton, MIT, Brown University, and as an economist at the World Bank. I will not go through the rest of his impressive biography and will say only that in recent years, his research and writing was concentrated on issues of global inequality, global economic and financial governance, including the G20 and the World Bank, financial crisis and financial regulation, and the entrepreneurial role of the state as well as the ethics of economics. Let us welcome Professor Wade.
Thank you very much. Can I stand up rather than sit down? Is that going to be all right in terms of recording it? And you can hear at the back. Can you hear at the back? Okay. So let
translators need the microphone.
You can use the volume.
Well, the problem is I'm going to be.
It could be.
Should I sit down? Okay. So first of all, I want to say that I'm very honored to be invited to give the annual Yusif Sayigh, if I can say that right, at the bottom of my throat, lecture. That is a great honor. And I want to also acknowledge the help from the Council, and especially from the Kenyan Institute, and even more so from Mandy Turner, who is the director of the Kenyan Institute. It's been an enormous project. You would be surprised how difficult it is to arrange a speaking trip of this kind, and Mandy has done a great deal of work in order to bring it about. So, I'm going to be talking about new industrial policy, and much of what I'm going to say is rather abstract. So I want to begin with what happened yesterday when we went to Hebron. We went to a shoe factory. This factory produces 500 high-quality shoes a day, which it sells entirely to Israel. It is supply constrained, not demand constrained. That is, it could easily increase its production. The factory was a mess. The factory looked like it came out of Charles Dickens' account of a factory in London in the 19th century. And quite a few years ago, in the 1980s, I visited shoe factories producing broadly similar kinds of shoes in Taiwan. But they were very much better laid out in terms of the production line, in terms of the equipment that they were using, and in terms of the working conditions. But this was not just due to the decisions of individual shoemaking entrepreneurs. This was due to sustained efforts by a small government agency called the Industrial Development Bureau, with roughly 150 engineers working for an economy with about 22 million people. So the point I'm making is that this was not a large agency. The agency was divided into sectors. Each sector had a team. One of the sectors was called daily necessities, so shoes were within the daily necessities sector, along with food and other such things. And the point is that it was part of the job description of these engineers. And by the way, this organization was established in the 1950s. It was part of the job description to go out and visit factories, like the one we visited in Hebron yesterday, for several days, every month, year after year, decade after decade, and push or nudge the factory owners to upgrade their production, to improve their production layout, maybe to introduce a new kind of machine tool to improve productivity. And so you would not have found in the 1980s in Taiwan, the shoemakers in Taiwan, a factory like the one we saw in Hebron. And so it just raised to me the question of what is the Palestinian government doing in order to encourage the upgrading of Palestinian manufacturing. What we encountered yesterday in Hebron was a sort of, it was very close to defeatism. That is, China's imports are knocking us out of manufacturing, and therefore we in Palestine have to give up manufacturing and think of something else to do. And that seems to me premature for Palestine to just give up manufacturing, because there is a lot that could be done by the public sector, such as the equivalent agency to what is called the Industrial Development Bureau in Taiwan, to keep nudging Palestinian entrepreneurs to upgrade their production, the quality of their production, to diversify, and so on. So that's something very concrete. Now I want to go much more abstract, and I'll come back to more concrete things towards the end. And I'm going to begin with the development strategy as set out by Adam Smith in 1775. These are 40 famous words. You count the words, they equal 40. So he's basically saying development is very easy. That is to say, little else is required to carry a state to the highest degree of optimism from the lowest barbarism, but three conditions: peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of events. And in case you think that nobody today believes this, let me say that Gregory Mankiw, a celebrated American economist, professor of economics at Harvard, former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, and the author of the very influential textbook in economics, said in the Wall Street Journal in 2006, Adam Smith was right to say this. So, these ideas provide justification. Even though they were first formulated in 1755, they still provide justification for what has become, ever since the 1980s, the sort of standard development strategy promoted by the World Bank, but promoted by many other development agencies as well. The core idea from which everything else follows is the proposition that the market is the preferred mechanism rather than the state for achieving human ends, except in particular conditions where there may be market failures. Then there might be a case for government intervention just to fix those market failures, but other than that, the market is a strong presumption in favor of the private sector, the decentralized private sector, solving whatever problems there are to be solved, not the state. So the goal of the state development strategy is allocative efficiency and price stability. And the assumption is that when there is allocative efficiency and price stability, then there will be economic growth. Notice that what is missing in this idea of allocative efficiency, that's efficiency of allocation of existing resources. What is missing is the idea of efficiency in generating new resources, like innovation, for example. That is missing from the basic idea of allocative efficiency. Nevertheless, that's the goal of the development strategy. So the role of government has been, in this approach, this neoclassical or sometimes called neoliberal approach, has been summarized as get the prices right. That get the prices right does not mean that the government gets the prices. It means that the government opens the economy to the international economy, and then whatever prices are in the domestic economy, when it is in completely free trade with the international economy, those must be the right prices because they're not distorted prices. And if the prices are right, then growth will follow more or less automatically, as Adam Smith suggested. And so you get this package of measures: export-led growth, deregulation, free trade, suppression of labor costs, and so on. And the assumption is that if you have these things in place, you set the dials of the economy so that these things are met, then growth will follow. Well, I want to raise some doubts about this very standard strategy that we have heard from development agencies around the world, at least in the West, including the World Bank, ever since the 1980s, the early 1980s, when the great neoliberal revolution with Reagan and Thatcher kicked in. The first set of doubts comes from the answer to this question: how many non-Western countries have become developed over the past 200 years? And my suggestion is that however much you stretch the categories of non-Western and country and developed, you get less than 10. And my list would include, remember it's the last 200 years, my list would include, first of all, Japan. Japan in the 19th century, when the Japanese government was very afraid that America would take Japan as a colony, and this mobilized the Japanese elite to really mount a very successful development strategy. And then Russia, and again I'm stretching the category of non-Western. Then the post-war success stories: South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Again, I'm stretching the category of country by calling Hong Kong a country and a non-Western country. There's Singapore, that's 6, and one more I would add, Israel. So that's 7. And it's pretty difficult to get more than about 7 over 200 years. And the point that I'm making by this question and answer is that development is very difficult. It's not at all like what Adam Smith said. And it's not going to happen by free market forces. Basically, that's the lesson. These catch-up countries have not stuck closely to the neoliberal recipe that the World Bank has been promoting very energetically since the 1980s. We can come back to the third question at the end. And then there's a second set of doubts, which is about the wisdom of a continued emphasis on export-led growth. The point being that export-led growth encourages firms and governments to keep wages low. Export-led growth, when this is the dominant strategy, leads government and others to see wages only as a cost, not as also a source of demand. And so one's likely to find rising levels of income inequality and wealth inequality associated with export-led growth. And then also demand in the high-income countries is likely to remain suppressed for quite a while. So the point I want to make is that there is not, as there is often assumed to be, a sharp distinction between export-led growth and import substituting industrialization. In East Asia, the governments did both at the same time. They promoted exports, they also very energetically promoted import replacement. And I'll give you a concrete example of this energetic effort to promote import replacement at the same time as export promoting in a moment. What is completely missing from this whole approach to development, this whole way of seeing the development task, is the idea that development is essentially about production transformation, the transformation of production systems. This whole approach leaves out the idea of improving the firm and societal capabilities. Certainly it leaves out the idea of improving firm-level capabilities, as in the case of the shoe factory in Hebron that I mentioned. And so the question is, how can we go about using public policy to improve production capabilities, marketing capabilities? And this is one way to think of the task, which is very different from the neoclassical or the Adam Smith kind of way of conceiving of development. This is a really crude idea of a production ladder divided into stages, steps, beginning with simple manufacturing, perhaps with FDI and foreign guidance for domestic firms, then moving to the development of supporting industry with technology obtained from licensing, from spillovers from foreign firms operating in the territory. The third stage, domestic firms are fully capable of producing high-quality goods. And the fourth stage, domestic firms are able to innovate both in processes and products. So this is a really crude idea. And of course, it has to be complemented. The idea of the ladder, the product ladder, has to be complicated with another vector, which is the quality vector. That is, it's possible to upgrade within each of these steps by improving the quality of production. And the next point to make is that it is, and this is really just repeating the point I've made already, it is really difficult to move up these steps. The escalator is not at all smooth. And in fact, some analysts identify what they call a glass ceiling at various points in the ladder. Some identify a glass ceiling between stages 2 and 3. And that's because it's really difficult. This is the stage of moving from the development of supporting industry to the stage where domestic firms are fully capable of producing high-quality goods. This is because it's really difficult for firms to upgrade quality, and yet there's now good evidence that the quality of, for example, a machine tool makes a huge difference to the price that the machine tool can be sold at. And I'll give you one example from India, which was worked on by my colleague at LSE, John Sutton. John Sutton was able to identify factories in India where the same operator was using machine tools produced in India and in Taiwan. The machine tools were doing the same thing. It's just that some were produced in India and some in Taiwan. he got the operators to keep a detailed record of the breakdowns of the machine. Breakdowns not due to electricity failure, but breakdowns due to the machines themselves, to use this as an index of quality, the quality of the machine. And he found that the quality of the Indian-made machines was about 3% less than the Taiwan-made machines. That is, the Indian machines were out of action roughly just 3% hours per year more than the Taiwan machines. And he used some other indexes of quality as well, and they indicated the same thing. That is, there was a tiny difference in the quality, but that tiny difference in the quality of the machine tools, the Indian ones being lower than the Taiwanese ones, made a huge difference to the price. Because the Indian machines were slightly less good in terms of quality, they could only sell on the market at a price 25% below the Taiwan-made machines. So that's how much difference this small difference in quality made to the price of the machines. So this point about quality is really important for manufacturing to be upgraded in Palestine, anywhere else. There has to be a real big emphasis on quality. And so, yes, I'm talking now about the middle income trap. That is the point that movement up this product ladder is not smooth.